Hey, how's it going? Seem to be a lot of dads out there that are looking for an option for an additional seat in the front of the GMC Sierra AT4, and I was one of those. Love all the additional features that it has, but didn't like the center console. So this is what I've done. I took out the center console, put in a jump seat, finished everything out so that it looks like it's straight from the factory. So it's basically a truck that doesn't actually exist. In this video, I'm going to show you all the tools that you need. I'm going to provide all the part numbers, walk you through all the kind of the difficult steps and what it's going to take to actually make this conversion happen. You really don't have to be an expert in vehicle mechanics or anything like that. You just have to have a little bit of time and patience and understanding of basic tools. So hang on tight as we walk through all of the challenging steps and fun little obstacles that I had to overcome as I completed this process. So one of the first lessons I came across was to disconnect the battery. You can just disconnect this negative terminal here, kind of protect it with a rag or something so it doesn't reconnect, but I ended up blowing a fuse, which I have to go replace. Not a huge deal, but just a mild inconvenience. It could have been avoided had I done the right thing. So disconnect that before you start taking apart any of the electrical connectors. I do want to point out some molding that needs to be taken off before you take the seats off, otherwise you may break it like I did. So this molding right here basically just pulls straight up. As you can see, it broke off right here, but it's got two body clips here and here. And then it's also got just these little tabs that have to line up before you pop the clips in. So those should come out before the seats do, otherwise the seats may break those panels off. Okay, I wanted to look at the bolts for the seat and also for, and these are all obviously gonna be for the center console as well, but so the bolts, this one here is an 18mm hex. These are T50 Torx. I have a battery operated impact wrench, which worked really well for both of those, but if you want to just do it by hand as well, you can definitely do that. One thing I messed up on a little bit, the ratcheting wrench that I was initially using scuffed up the plastic a little bit, which is not a huge deal. It's a truck, but just something to kind of be aware of. You may need a little extension or something to avoid that. Yep, so that's taking out those. There's obviously 4 on each seat and then 4 holding in the center console / jump seat. Looking at the back here, I've got the seats all the way forward. The Torx bolts are right there. And then here is the 18mm hex bolt that has to come out for the center console and jump seat, but you've got to take out the seat first. That's pretty much the main thing preventing you from getting that seat out. Get the front and passenger and driver seat out first, and then you can get to those last bolts. A couple of things to note here. After I got this out, looking at it, taking it apart, I realized it would probably be a little bit easier to take this apart piece by piece in the vehicle rather than taking out the whole thing as a unit. So these panels, so this is right here is where that little 7mm bolt goes into the kind of driver's side floor area. So take off that little window, take that bolt out. And then what you can do is basically pop off this whole panel here. And this is just done by a series of kind of body clips. You can pop this whole thing off right there. There's just quite a few of them. And then what is going on up here is this will basically just slide backwards. So you can see where it kind of slides in right there. So you can slide that off and that will make your life a whole lot easier. I believe it is pretty similar on the other side. Yeah, just a lot of body clips and I think that sliding mechanism. So that will give you access to all of this. And then, okay, the next pro tip here, this whole piece right here. So I don't think there's even anything you have to take off necessarily. but that whole piece will pop right out. So the major issues are typically going to be the clips right here. So once that whole thing is out, you have fantastic access to kind of everything underneath there. Primarily the biggest issue I would say is probably getting the wiring harness off without taking this whole thing apart. You can flip it over, but you need really access to everything inside of here. So that will give you additional access there. And then you can see here, this is where the USB and the SD card panel was, so popped that out. This is a light, you don't really need this, I just left that in there. And then there's nothing underneath here that needs to come out. And additionally, the cup holders here do come out, but there's no screws or anything underneath there hiding that's going to prevent you from taking this out. So once this top panel comes off, you're kind of fully disassembled as far as things that need to come apart before you can really get into the guts of this thing. I'll show you this little morsel because it gave me, and sounds like the other guys that I've talked to, quite a headache. So this is the air vent that cools the wireless charger. The challenge here is that it's pretty difficult to take off with the center console in place, but it kind of attaches to the center console. So you really just, I don't know the best way to do it, honestly. But basically, this piece right here goes back kind of behind all the electronics in the center dash, and then it comes kind of weasels its way out. This actually had one of these attached to it, but I cut it off because I just got tired of dealing with it. But basically there's a screw here going up, and I think that was this is one of those smaller screws. I'll show you the sizes you'll need. There's another one here and another one here. They're extremely difficult to get to. Honestly, I still am not 100% sure the best way to take that off, but I imagine if you can disconnect it from the center console, which I believe is this one, and you may be able to access through here, that would probably be the best way. So I just took it out, and this thing actually does pop out nicely. You really just kind of weasel your hand back up in there. You've got to pull on it, just give it a good yank, and it'll disconnect. And then you really just have to muscle it out. It'll, you know, it's plastic, so it'll kind of bend and straighten out as it needs to, but that should pull out without any difficulty. If you do need some additional, you know, visualization or whatever, you can open up the glove box and kind of, you know, disconnect it so that the whole glove box drops out, and there's a little bit of a window you can look through and see where this goes in. So just kind of a pro tip there. Now just to show you where the wireless charger is, once you lift up that rubber piece, it sits right underneath here. You can see where the that vent blows into to kind of cool everything. It just kind of blows right through there. And there's some screws kind of holding everything in place underneath there that are a little difficult to get to until you take this panel off, and then that whole thing comes with it. So that's probably the way to go. Take this panel off while it's still in the vehicle, and that'll allow you to at least disconnect this piece, and then you can probably slide everything out. When you are taking the main piece out, it kind of slides in and out on these, so you do have to do the bolts there on the other side, and then there may be some body clips or something, but it's gonna basically pull out on a sliding mechanism with these. So that would be my recommended way to pull it out the easiest without breaking anything or hurting yourself, really. This piece here is, you have to take this off in order to get the lower panel assembly, I think that's what it's called, onto onto the dash. So it basically replaces this piece, and then that will connect to the lower panel extension, I believe. So just kind of show you where this went. Sat basically right there and just sealed up that space between the dash and the center console here. Okay, looking at this, to take the back here apart to get all the internal components out, you do have to take out this cup holder. It's kind of nice that it comes out anyways, because then it's easier to clean. It does take a little bit of force, as there's tabs in the bottom there. So once you get those out, the important thing here is this bolt right here. That's the only thing that's going to allow you to get the backside here all disconnected. So don't try to wrestle this whole thing off until you've done this, and I believe there is one more. I'll have to look for it and figure out exactly where that one goes in. But just something important to be aware of. Unfortunately, I did not get a video of the wiring harness while it was in and while I was taking it out. But it does basically snake its way all throughout here. It's got, you know, plugs kind of securing it all over the place. And then it does go up into here where it provides electrical to, I think, the light in this main compartment, storage compartment, as well as the USB ports, maybe, oh, and the seat heaters. So you do have to, that does take a little bit of finesse to get it out without breaking things. But honestly getting the center console out upside down and kind of fully taken apart as far as this back panel, and then everything up underneath here with the phone charger, getting all that stuff kind of taken out first, flipping it over, and then starting to take out the wiring harness is helpful. One thing to note, this little deal right here is where the key fob reprogramming kind of sensor was sitting. That just kind of pops out. Just wiggle that out, and then it pretty much looks the exact same on the jump seat. And so you just have to find basically this little deal, and it snaps right back into place. I think one of the other things that could be mentioned, not necessarily in this area, but further back in here, is the antenna looks a little bit different, but it is the same plug connector. So you can just take off the old antenna, put on the new antenna. That way it stays consistent with, you know, kind of what the truck control module is expecting to see. And I think other than that, the wiring harness was relatively straightforward. So as far as taking apart this jump seat, and the center console is similar. The way to do it is take these side panels off first, and these just pop right off. They're pretty easy. There's not much holding them on. Take those off first, and then you can start kind of pulling this. There's a metal rod underneath the back of this. So once you have this thing fully released, you can lift it up. You just basically unseat that metal rod. And then this whole thing, once it's kind of free from the sides, will just kind of pop away. There's a couple levels of clips that have to come undone, but basically it'll pop away from here and here. And then you've got a couple that go, I think, straight up into this to kind of keep that all seated. So just be gentle with that so you don't break any of those clips, because those can be kind of a pain. I do just want to point out what I did here. So this is the back of the jump seat. It did not come with it. This was actually off of the center console that I took out. That was, I think, stock probably. This one did have two regular USB, but I wanted this USB-C or whatever it is. So what I ended up doing is just taking out the old USB ports, and then I just took I mean, you could do it a number of ways, but basically cut out a piece that would, or a chunk that would fit, so that I could fit that in there. And it actually fit in there nicely, snaps into place, and then I think the electrical was actually the same, so it didn't require me to switch any electrical plugs. Otherwise, the vents line up nicely and they work, no problem. Again, the seat heaters, I'm still working out that problem. I know some people have put them underneath here. I was looking at maybe basically setting them in right here, but that was a project for another day, so I decided to just put it all back together. Now that I've got the jump seat in, I'm going to put in the lower panel extension as well as the lower panel, and hopefully that'll all snap together. And then I've got a floor mat to put over the center console, or the center piece here, to cover up that hole in the carpet. And I'm hoping all the electrical wires will fit and have enough length there as well. Okay, after a little bit of jiggling around, I got everything to kind of sit nicely in there. Just a little bit of a space right there, which was because the cord that connects all the power to the center console runs underneath this, and it was a little tight, so I did have to notch out a little bottom piece of the extension here, which was not too difficult, but I would recommend doing that before you try to jam it in there. Otherwise you may end up with a space like this. Otherwise, yeah, the mat covers it up nicely. There's a little bit of a bump here from the connector between the electrical wires, but that's not too bad. And then over on this side, there's a little bit of a space right there that's not covered up by the extension, but it does get covered up pretty nicely from the floor mat. Only other thing to note, I guess, here is that this lower extension is screwed in just by one screw. There's nothing on the other side. And I will make sure I annotate all of the sizes of those. But I believe this one was a 7mm hex. So that's pretty much done now. Just kind of show you. So these things drop down like that. Got your cup holders. I got the one with the additional storage here. And then that whole thing pops up. And I've also got some storage here. I will just show you what I did is I cut out the bottom here to fit all of the USB ports and also the SD card. This has all the maps and everything on it. So that is kind of important to have. So I just put it in the bottom there. It's covered up by the felt, so nothing gets in there unless I'm using it. Kind of one other thing to note here, this right here, there's some electronics underneath it that are kind of adjacent to it, and this is used to rekey your fobs. So that is important to switch over if you do happen to do this. So otherwise, I still gotta get the key done so that I can lock this, but that's a later project. Nothing critical at this point. I will make sure I've got the model or the part numbers for this piece. I did have a little bit of difficulty getting the right one because the pictures in the part manuals don't actually look like this. So I had a little bit of back and forth with GM parts who were ultimately not helpful. But this one, that one was pretty straightforward to get. So I'll have all the part numbers for those and kind of show all of the other bolts sizes and everything, but that's kind of the full conversion. I know some guys have resurfaced this so that it matches kind of the leather, the nice AT4 leather, but I don't really care that much. So there it is, pretty much all done. The only thing I did not finish yet, and I'm looking to go back to at some point, is the seat heaters. The button did not transfer over well, so I know some other people have made some brackets through like 3D printing or something, but I've not gotten there yet, so we'll see. Another day, but I'm moving down south, so we're not gonna have too many cold days anyways. So hope this was helpful, and hope you guys enjoy doing the conversion yourselves. This was a little bit of a headache, but had fun doing it. I don't get to do this kind of work very much, so it was a lot of fun. So yeah, enjoy.